Good evening. Ah, man. Just had a little bit of a coughing fit, so I'm a little bit lightheaded. Hang on a second. Hang on. Okay, sorry about that. We'll try this again. My phlegm's been real thick today, so damn weather going back and forth tears me up. Anyway, sorry about that. Just as a reminder, Yah forbid you guys wait on me to remind you, but if you need to do your battery check, go through and charge all your batteries, check, make sure everything's good to go. Sorry, I must have gotten quiet there for a moment. If everything's, make sure everything's good to go. Things are moving very rapidly, so we might want to take that as a cue and kind of be on what we need to be on. Pardon me. I even got the EcoFlows out and ran them through a cycle, ran them down all the way, and charged them back up. Did that to both of them, and even went through drone batteries today. I've got in fact, they're done now, my Mavic Mini, DJI Mavic Mini batteries right there. Those are good to go. Now, those are Li-ion batteries, so I don't sweat charging those up and leaving them charged at 100%. I don't sweat that one bit. Those are Li-ion. My LiPo batteries, like the Mavic Air 2 uses, DJI Mavic Air 2, I do not leave those at full state of charge. I charge them up, and with the Flymore bundle, you get a little USB thing that you can snap onto your drone battery, and you can use your drone battery as a dual USB port if you happen to need to charge something while you're out flying your drone, I guess. Anyway, so what I do, now they're smart batteries. They will automatically discharge themselves after like a couple of days. They will automatically start to discharge themselves. However, I don't like that for multiple reasons. For one, I don't want to rely on that. For two, it's inside of a hard case. And so considering that there is a circuit that kicks in that adds a little bit of a load, a little bit of resistance to that battery, it does heat up. It does warm up. So being inside of a hard case with foam, it retains that heat, and heat is a killer for batteries. So what I do is I charge them up, and I'm using the that little USB device they came with to just whatever. I actually had my 18650 charger plugged into it earlier, and was just putting all my 18650s, and by the time I got through the ones just for e-cigs, because I've got a lot of batteries that I've held on to because they still hold a charge, they still work, they just don't have the capacity that they did have. I hang on to them because, if SH is the TF, then there's not going to be a source for that. And even though those batteries weren't in great shape, they still worked. And so that's why I hang on to them. Kitty cat. Hi, kitty cat. Kitty cat. Hi, kitty cat. You would think the dog would give a damn, but she's not even paying attention. Anyway, bye, kitty cat. See you later. Normally, she'd have had her nose in that window. Maybe it's nighttime and that's why she didn't, but I noticed the motion light on the side of the house, and I looked at the other camera and saw the cat walking in front of the front door. Anyway, so just, make sure you go through, and like I said, on the LiPo batteries, the lithium phosphate batteries, those you don't want to charge and keep them at a full state of charge. You want those to be, I think they say between 40 and 60% if it's going to be on a shelf. And don't let it get too hot. Don't let it get too cold. LiPo batteries, you kind of have to care for those. Li-ion can take a little bit more of abuse. However, they don't have the charge cycles that LiPos do. So, give and take. LiPos, I believe, are also heavier than lithium-ion batteries. So, which makes sense because, they have a higher capacity for the density. And so, or I should say a higher density for the capacity. I said that backwards. So that means an equal amount, so to speak, is going to have more of if you've got a pound of lithium ion versus a pound of lithium phosphate, your pound of lithium phosphate is going to last longer as far as the charge. It's going to last longer than what the lithium phosphate will. So, however, actually, no, I got that backwards. Actually, I do got that a little bit backwards because a LiPo will be heavier than Li-ion. I got that backwards. My apologies. Typically, I would say energy density does have it's got mass. Hell, that's one hell of a... I'm going to have to get on that subject with the right person, I do believe. Because that's got me now. Energy has weight, if you didn't know. Now, it's just a tiny, 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 tiny amount. But a charged battery will weigh more than a non-charged battery. Energy has weight. It's got mass. And it's a very interesting topic, and I've touched on it with a couple of people before, but never really came to any good, solid conclusions. Interesting topic. Anyway, I'll quit rambling. Just make sure you go through the things, go through your batteries, make sure you got those topped off. We made sure our flashlights were topped up. I do need to grab the headlamp over there and make sure it's topped up. Other than that, I think I've gotten through the rest of the stuff today. The radios I did like a week or so ago, so I know they're good. Things, like I said, are moving pretty rapidly. Some things are happening quicker than I even remotely expected. Obviously, I put out that stupid short video earlier this morning. And obviously it came out that Warsaw had actually given some MiG-29s to Ukraine. Of course, not surprised at all that that Ukraine was going to ask for planes and missiles. Well, they did. When they, as they were receiving the tank, in a procedural way, I guess, or an aesthetic way, he turns around and asks for planes, fighter jets and missiles. Well, come to find out, Warsaw has already given them some MiG-29s and said that it was parts, that it was just plane parts. Now, I remember back when the plane thing very first came up, which was a while back, and it was discussed about plane parts, and there was even a comment from someone. I remember talking about it. There was a comment from someone about a whole plane is just parts, or something to that effect. However, we find out that there was more than those words. So we got that going on, and then we've also got, and it's in the headlines that I'll be covering, hang on here. I don't know what the hell that was all about. Okay, yeah, Lockheed Martin, which I thought at first said General Dynamics. I don't know. Anyway, apparently Lockheed is just ready to go as far as giving Kiev F-16s. They're absolutely ready to go, and I suppose so. I mean, why not? They've got nothing to lose here. It's not like they got to pay for them. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think. I do know what to do. And that is make sure I have things tidied up. Make sure that I've got things together as best I can. And get ready. Because I don't think we've got much longer before it's just admittingly, I mean, it's already starting to become admitted that this is World War III. Starting. There's like not been obviously any official announcement, and there probably won't be. Don't expect for New York City to have a ticker tape parade to announce World War III. It really doesn't work that way. From my understanding, you more or less just kind of slip into it, you know. I don't know if at any time, I couldn't tell you because I wasn't around, and I don't have access to speak to anybody who was, but I don't know if at any time during World War I or World War II, if they actually called it that during the war. I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't know. But that is something that I've always kind of wondered. They may have not even called it a world war while it was going on. It was probably just more or less the war or the conflict, much like this will likely be. History books, if there's to be future ones written, and I'm sure there will be, this, I think, will go down as World War III. Again, I don't think it's going to be an all-out, mutually assured destruction. I don't think that that's on the cards, and I really don't. I don't think that's me smoking hopium or anything like that. Nah, and I really dove deep to make sure that it wasn't me trying to cope, more or less, by having that mindset, because humans do that. But I don't think so. It doesn't. It makes no sense to do that. So, in any way, shape, or form, they don't have to resort to nuclear weapons as far as really making some hits count, because they've got so many other new weapons, directed energy weapons, you name it. They've got all kinds of technology at their fingertips. The whole missile thing is so outdated, it's unreal. But, hey, you know, nobody's going to come out and say, you know, oh, well, we don't care if you got hypersonic missiles because we got lasers, we can shoot you before you can hit the button. You know, I mean, they're not going to just come out and say that. Well, Biden might, but he's an idiot. But don't let him know that stuff, because he might call Putin up to tell him. Or, you know, maybe leave some documents in Putin's bathroom or something. You know, when he goes in there to change his shitty pants. Anyway, I didn't say that. Did I say it? I didn't say that. I didn't say that. That wouldn't be appropriate for YouTube. Anyway. But I do think it's going to be uncomfortable here. I think cost of stuff will go through the roof. Continue. Let me say that. Continue to go through the roof, including food and just everyday items. I think you're going to see the cost of fuel go through the roof once we are full-fledged involved. Because, well, fuel's going to go to the war effort. There's a lot of things that's going to go to the war effort. it's going to be your patriotic duty to pay those high prices. Well, that's what they're going to tell you. We get it every way. I mean, there isn't an orifice that we have that they aren't sticking something in. I'm telling you that right now. This is insane. I know, great visual, isn't it? This is insane. And the dog scruffing. She had had enough. She's had it. Hang on. Like, fuck this, I'm out. Knock it off, kid. Jeez. Wasn't that bad of a joke, man. Anyway, I suppose it's my Friday. We can jump right onto the, we'll call them episodes. We'll jump right into the episodes I have open, and then we'll run away and act like we never existed. How's that sound? Sounds like a fun game. Alright. You might want to see the screen. You might not give a damn. I don't know. I'm getting huffed at again by the dog. I suck tonight, apparently. She had done had it. I love that dog. Okay. And I kind of briefly covered this morning. Ukraine demands jets and missiles. Kiev has called on Western countries to supply fighter jets and long-range munitions, urging for more weapons just hours after the United States and Germany agreed to send heavy battle tanks. Speaking in a video address on Wednesday, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky thanked his German and American counterparts for their decision to send the tanks, but quickly shifted to Ukraine's need for additional arms. We must also open deliveries of long-range missiles to Ukraine. It is important. We must expand our cooperation in artillery, he said, adding that his country also requires fighter jets and that speed and volume are key now. Imagine that. Folks in the United States just want pistol braces. Washington's decision to send 31 Abrams tanks broke a stalemate with Berlin, which had refused to send its own Leopard 2 tanks or allow allies to re-export them to Kiev unless the United States followed suit. Ukrainian officials had long pleaded for heavier armor, specifically the M1 Abrams, among other advanced weapon systems from the West. A top advisor to Zelensky, Mikhail Podolyak, told The Telegraph on Wednesday that he expects Ukraine's patrons to provide long-range missiles eventually, claiming they would be part of the negotiation process for the next weapons delivery to Kiev. Nice. Right now we are seeing a sharp change in sentiment among the political elites of European countries who understand that we need to transfer all equipment, including armored vehicles, he said, and we will reach, I am sure, no doubt, an agreement on long-range missiles. I mean, why not? Their advisor added that only these missiles will make it possible to destroy almost the entire infrastructure of the Russian rear army. Goes on to say that, citing unnamed sources, because that's how it always works, the Telegraph reported that the UK government has not ruled out longer range missiles, but currently has no plans to supply them, which means 2 to 3 weeks. Washington has previously refused Ukraine's request for ATACMS, surface missiles, which have a range of around 190 miles, though it's unclear whether that, like the M1 Abrams decision, might be subject to change. I wouldn't be surprised at this point if this jackass doesn't sign off all of her F-22s to him. This is just ridiculous. Oh. You gotta reel it back in. UK jets for Ukraine not on the table, says the Telegraph. Well, make up your mind. UK has no plans to send its advanced fighter jets to, again, 2 to 3 weeks is what this means. 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, I don't have to read this. 2 to 3 weeks. They're saying it's not on the table. 2 to 3 weeks. Oh, wait. That's right. Warsaw already did give them planes. I covered this briefly earlier, too, so I won't go through that either. But yeah, apparently Warsaw already gave them MiG-29 fighter jets. The planes were sent over using a combined method, apparently meaning that they were delivered in a disassembled state and declared as spare parts. Yeah, somebody probably took a light out of the cockpit or something, a light bulb out of the cockpit and said, oh, it's disassembled. Crazy. I could use a MiG-29. That would be pretty cool, thank you. Lockheed, ready to provide Kiev with F-16s, but I thought, wait a minute. Insane. Any countries that are prepared to provide Kiev with F-16 fighter jets would face no shortage of supply. Top U.S. weapons manufacturer Lockheed Martin has suggested, stating that it's ready to meet any new demand. In an interview with the Financial Times on Wednesday, the weapons manufacturer's chief operating officer, Frank St. John, said there is a lot of conversation about third-party transfer of F-16s, meaning countries that wish to buy and then re-export their U.S. jets to Ukraine. Although Lockheed is not directly involved in any talks regarding potential deliveries of military aircraft to Kiev, St. John stated his company nevertheless plans to ramp up production of the fighter planes to get to the point where it will be able to backfill pretty capably any countries that choose to do third-party transfers or help with the current conflict. His statements come after the U.S. and Germany announced this week that they would be sending their heavy tanks to Ukraine. The move has reignited discussion about other weapon transfers as Kiev reiterated its demand for more missiles and military aircraft. Come to think about it, it's been a while. It's been a little while since I've owned an aircraft carrier. You could bring me one of those. Park it on the Mississippi. Not south. No. Go up above north of Wood River and just park it up there somewhere. If you get down by St. Louis, they'll have that damn thing stripped before I even have a chance to see it. So, yeah, don't park it down near St. Louis. Not only that, I'll probably get shot on my way to go to it. So just park it, north of St. Louis. It'd be nice. Oh, and then the planes you're going to give me, you can just put them on the aircraft carrier. That solves that problem. Got this all worked out. They deliver them and then nuke me, just, He was a threat. Major wave of airstrikes reported in Ukraine. I know I'm kind of going at this a little backwards from what I normally would have. Normally I would have kind of started out with this because this is the big deal, at least in our face. There was another missile strike last night, which included 2 of the hypersonic missiles, which haven't been used in a while. So that is something very notable. And, by the way, didn't somebody say they were going to do that here soon? Can't remember, but I think somebody said that they were going to probably use hypersonics again soon. And lo and behold, look. I think we're going to see more of it. In fact, I think we're going to see a lot more of it. Like I've been saying, I think you're going to see Putin make a push. And I think you're going to see NATO actually get into the game. I mean, on a face value, get into the game. So, we'll see. That's all we can do. This here says Ukraine was subjected to a huge wave of Russian airstrikes on Thursday morning, with explosions at energy facilities reported from various parts of the country, including the capital, Kiev. A blast in Kiev, stay in shelters, Mayor Vitaly Klitschko wrote on Telegram. Videos on social media have shown thick black smoke rising from an undisclosed location in the city. The Kiev metro has reportedly ceased its operations during the airstrikes. Ukrainian railways have announced that some trains will be delayed as news of the airstrikes started coming in. Reports of explosions also came from the Black Sea port of Odessa, where at least 2 electrical substations were said to be have been hit. According to social media accounts, there have been power shortages and issues with internet access in the city. Blasts were also reported from Dnipro, Vinnytsia, Kryvyi Rog, Nikolaev, and some other locations. Ukrainian officials said that air defenses have been activated in Kiev, Vinnytsia, and Zhytomyr regions. Earlier, Anton Gerashenko, an advisor to Ukraine's interior minister, said that Russian missiles were incoming from the direction of the Caspian Sea. Moscow has stepped up pressure on Ukraine since October of last year, when it accused Kiev of using terrorist tactics and of targeting Russian infrastructure, including the strategic Crimean Bridge. Since then, a number of large-scale missile attacks have been carried out against Ukrainian military installations and energy facilities, leading to rolling blackouts across the country. I don't think Putin wants the people, the citizens, to suffer. I don't. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking a side. But I certainly can't side with a government like Ukraine. I mean, that's just insane. Let's see. U.S. and NATO on path to full-fledged military conflict in Europe, says Moscow. And I wanted to cover this for obvious reasons. It says America's reckless neo-colonist expansionist policy has put Europe and possibly the world on the brink of a devastating conflict. Russia's deputy envoy to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe has warned. Continued escalation of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine could spiral into an all-out war that would see no victors, Maxim Buyakovich told the OSCE Permanent Council on Thursday. The leaders of the U.S. and their NATO client states have come close to a red line, the diplomat warned, citing the U.S. and other Western nations' plans to send dozens of modern battle tanks to Kiev. Buyakovich accused Washington and its allies of deliberately escalating the military standoff in Ukraine and provoking Kiev into military action against the Russian population. Really? This is a straight path into a full-blown conflict in Europe, which absolutely all people living on our continent definitely stand to lose from, the Russian diplomat warned. He also said that the U.S. and the U.K., which he described as the puppet masters of the ongoing escalation, would hardly be able to sit it out either. The latest decisions on new armed deliveries for Ukraine taken by Western nations only mire them deeper involved in the armed standoff with Russian troops, Baikovich said. These decisions could result in further escalation and more intense warfare, which would only lead to more civilian victims and further destruction, he added. The diplomat also accused the collective West of turning Ukraine into an instrument for realizing their geopolitical plans, adding that the ongoing conflict between Moscow and Kiev was a result of the Western-backed 2004 Maidan coup. So, he also blamed the U.S. and its long-standing ambitions for global domination for the current European security crisis. The logic of the OSCE principle of indivisibility of security consistently dictates that either there is security for all member states or there is no security for any of them, the diplomat said, adding that the principle had been violated and this collective security had been lost. So, again, I believe you're going to see a change in stance here very quick. Hang on, let me have a couple of vapes. Oh, man. Crazy. All right. EU urged to embrace war economy. European Union should move its economy to a wartime footing amid the Ukraine conflict. Manfred Weber, the president of the European People's Party, suggested on Thursday. He said that the move is required to ramp up the bloc's own defense potential and that of Kiev. Speaking to the newspapers of the Funk Media Group, Weber called for the reorganization of the EU arms industry. The MEP believes that the bloc needs a kind of war economy in order to be able to guarantee stability and security. The European states are currently not in a position to provide the necessary armaments quickly enough, neither for our own defense nor for Ukraine, he lamented. To remedy the situation, Weber argued, the EU should break new ground, pointing out that complex allocation structures are not working the way they are supposed to. The MEP pointed out that Germany had established a €100 billion or $109 billion special defense fund amid the Ukraine conflict, but hardly anything happens because the bureaucracy is paralyzing. A year after the start of the war, the armaments companies have still hardly received any orders, he added. His comments come after both the U.S. and Germany on Wednesday approved the delivery of 31 M1 Abrams and 14 Leopard 2 tanks, respectively, to Kiev. However, the decision comes amid numerous warnings by EU officials that the bloc's own arms stockpiles are running low. So, I would agree. People need to get ready. Not just in the EU, but here in the U.S. People need to get ready for a war economy. I really couldn't tell you what that looks like, other than not good. High prices, low incomes. We're already in a bad way. And I guess, really, in the other world wars, we were in financial turmoil as well. So, I guess that part's not much different. Yeah, at least we did have a lot of that before World War II. A lot of that was, as far as like the Great Depression and stuff, a lot of that was pretty well out of the way. I think they were rebounding by that time. But then the war came, and, the rest literally is history. So, anyway, so you've got the EU parts of the EU, people in the EU, saying to embrace a war economy or be ready for it. France is here is denying the West is at war with Russia. I've got a couple. Says here the fact that the U.S., Germany, and several other countries announced that they would be supplying Ukraine with main battle tanks doesn't mean NATO is at war with Moscow, the French Foreign Ministry said on Wednesday. The comments from Quai d'Orsay come after the controversial speech by German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock in the European Parliament earlier this week. We are not at war with Russia, and none of our partners are, ministry spokesman Anne-Claire Legendre said on Thursday, according to AFP. The delivery of military equipment does not constitute co-belligerence. Yeah, I'd have to look that up. The day before, she's over there scruffing again. Apparently she don't like the word co-belligerence. I know, right? I mean, they could have just put just a regular layman's term in there, but no. We got co-belligerence, and now I have to deal with just an absolute livid dog just because they wanted to be belligerent about co-belligerence. It's ridiculous. Anyway, you knock it off over there. Sheesh. Anyway. And then we've got, this is my last article I have open. Then I'll read the headlines and run outside screaming, the end is nigh. Nobody told me we're at war, says NATO state's president. I don't know what her issue is. She is perma-pissed. Wow. Hang on. Jeez. Unruly. I'm not. I'm gonna get a huge huff. Anyway, commenting. Oh wait. Yeah. Okay. Commenting on the German foreign minister's declaration that Europe is fighting a war against Russia, Croatian President Zoran Milanovic said on Thursday that this was news to him and wished Berlin better luck than in World War II. Yikes. Croatia should in no way help Ukraine militarily, Milanovic said while visiting the port city of Split. Do you want us to enter the war? Framing the Ukraine conflict as one between Washington and Moscow, he reminded reporters that he was criticized for merely echoing the words of Kiev's defense minister about the current conflict being a proxy war between NATO and Russia. Now the German foreign minister says we must be united because, I quote, we are at war with Russia. I didn't know that, Milanovic said. Maybe Germany is at war with Russia, but then good luck. Maybe this time it turns out better than 70-odd years ago. The Croatian president was baffled to hear such a claim from the leader of the German Greens, which he said used to be a pacifist party. That's what got me. Equally against the U.S. and the USSR, and not from Chancellor Olaf Scholz. If we are at war with Russia, then let's see what we need to do. But we won't ask Germany for its opinion, Milanovic added. Let them figure out who is the actual chancellor over there. I've been in politics for a long time, and our country has been through a lot, but I've never seen this kind of madness before. When it comes to tanks, Russian or American, they burn just the same, Milanovic said, noting that deliveries of armor to Ukraine, announced by the U.S. and Germany this week, will only prolong the fighting. Those tanks may burn, or they may reach Crimea, but Croatia will have nothing to do with it, he insisted. The Social Democrat president has frequently clashed with the nationalist parliamentary majority over Croatia's Ukraine policy. Just last month, Milanovic opposed Zagreb's participation in the EU program to train Ukrainian troops, saying it clashed with Croatia's constitution. Unless the U.S. and Russia are holding some kind of talks, the world is slowly sliding into World War III, Milanovic added. Some people think it already begun, but I have my reservation. So, I would say that that's a fair assessment. And I agree with his position. Oh man. And like I said, make sure you've got your T's crossed and your I's dotted. Make sure your batteries are charged. Make sure you're ready to go the best you can. I mean, ain't none of us got everything, so it is what it is. We'll have what we have when the time comes. We can't do much about that. So, just make sure you keep at it. I really do think you're going to see things ramp up in speed of escalation as well. I think things are going to really escalate. I have a feeling there could be another strike tonight, missile strike from Russia. Just a sneaky feeling. All right. One more sip of coffee. Another vape. Gotta charge the drone controllers and then they're good to go. And they should be mostly charged, so. Okay, one headline I shared out after the show last night: Meta to restore Trump's accounts. Apparently he got his Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff back. I hope he refrains from opening up an OnlyFans. So if Trump opens up an OnlyFans, that's on you. Let's see. U.S. lawmakers push nationwide TikTok ban. I ain't got a problem with that. I realize that I'm probably hypocritical when I say that. I absolutely am hypocritical when I say that. Because I'm very much against people just banning stuff because other people don't like it. However, I think that TikTok is a very big negative to us socially. And I think it's degrading our society, plain and simple. There's not anything good that comes from it. I've got no problem with getting rid of it, but again, I get that I'm a hypocrite when I say that. Ukraine demands jets. Oh, I covered that, extensively. Russian electricity exports to Asia surge. Inflation squeeze deepening inequality in Britain, says data. A new U.S. ambassador arrives in Moscow. I thought this was interesting. Israel rejects U.S. request to provide missiles for Ukraine, says Axios. Now, they've also said that if they do send Ukraine anything, they won't make it public. So keep that in mind as well. Talked about the airstrikes. South Korean imports of coal and gas hit record high, says media. White House estimates chances of Russia attacking NATO. They don't think that they are. I don't think that Putin intends to attack NATO unless NATO just keeps up and We'll see. We'll see. At some point, you have to say when. Zelensky calls Putin a nobody. Yeah, you're going to be thinking that one day, dude. IBM explains massive job cuts. Yeah, well, nobody still has explained to me why IBM is still in business, considering they were involved in the Holocaust. So, make that make sense. Major Russian energy project to double revenue, says Reuters. Russian athletes invited to Asian Games. I normally don't share sports, but I did share that because there's been, much like Rudolph, nobody wants to play games with Russians right now. So, let's see. EU urge. Oh, I covered that. And that. Brazil finds Telegram. Germany reveals timeline for Leopard 2 delivery to Ukraine. A Swiss president weighs in on arms shipments to Kiev. Kiev persecuting Orthodox Church at foreign request, says Patriarch Kirill. UN report labels China a bright spot. A bright spot of what? Snipers target priest first, says Patriarch Kirill. No reason for joy over tank supplies to Ukraine, says German defense minister. Listen to this. It's coming to a country near you soon. EU state may introduce compulsory military service for women. U.S. declares Wagner Group transnational criminal organization. Transnational. Does everything got to be trans today? Well, then shouldn't you give them a break? I mean, if they're trans and all, I mean, come on. Do they just got to put a rainbow on their flag or something and that makes them good? I don't know. Ask them what they identify as. Let's find out a little more. Top U.S. Oh, I covered that. Wagner boss invites legendary field commander back to the front lines. Newland reveals what Russia must do for sanctions relief. Russia didn't blow up gas pipeline, says Nord Stream boss. Russiagate congressman protest intelligence snub on TikTok. France denies. Oh, I covered that. And that. And that. That's everything. That is all of it. Take it. Huh. Like I say, tie up your loose ends. Things could be very, 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 very touch and go from here. So just do the things. You know what you need to do. Make it happen. Anyway, I am going to get off of here and I am going to relax the best I can for a couple of days. And I will see you cats on Sunday. So I appreciate y'all coming. Hope to see you on Sunday. Hope you have a great weekend. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.